It is another Loose Heads podcast in association with Talking Rugby Union. Hope everyone's well who is listening to this latest episode. And of course, as always, we have a smile on our face when we record these podcasts. But it's safe to say myself, Rob, Mark and Dave have got a bit of a spring in our step today because on the day we record this podcast, it's the day after Liverpool have been crowned Premier League champions. I had to get that one in early, guys. How are we all feeling today?
Yeah, very, very good. It's been a long old wait for that Premier League title. 25 years of disappointment, hurt, tears. So it feels good.
Absolutely. And then just getting over the hangover now. Well, I hope our next guest hasn't slammed his laptop shut and left this Zoom call. But thankfully, he's still there, as I can see now. And it's a delight to say we have Saracens winger and Manchester United fan, Alex Lewington, on the podcast today. Alex, sorry for that introduction of banging on about Liverpool. But how's things been with you?
Yeah, I was good until last night, and then this terrible event happened. But no, I'm all good, mate. We've been back in training, doing small group training with all the stage 1 rules and stuff, and as a part of that. So yeah, it's been good to get back into a bit of a routine.
Yeah, I was going to mention training to begin with, Alex. Is it kind of nice to meet all of your teammates again? Because I guess you haven't really been able to see them over the last 3 months or so.
No, I haven't seen them much at all. Actually, my parents live up in Nottingham, and my flat in London doesn't have any outdoor space, and the missus can work from wherever as long as she's got internet. So we went up there. So I've been totally away from the lads for a few months now, up until a couple of weeks ago, which obviously you come back and you're looking forward to see them. So that couple of weeks has been really good.
Great stuff. And we'll come on to, obviously, Saracens and your career, Alex. But as we always do on these podcasts, we begin by talking about your affiliation with Loose Heads. And when we were speaking yesterday, when we were planning the pod, Alex, we were talking about your affiliation with Loose Heads. Just tell us a bit about why you decided to get on board with the guys, because I know the Saracens did a brilliant article about why you chose to pick Loose Heads and be involved with them.
Yeah, just to cut a long story short, really, I think I was at the point in my life where I wanted to get involved with a charity, and I kind of was waiting for the right opportunity, and then I suppose a couple of things happened, not directly to me, but with people very close to me, regarding mental health, and it just felt right that I went sort of looking for a mental health charity to become a part of, and try and, I know we always say tackle the stigma and all that stuff, but I really bought into that. And at the time, I'm still good friends with Tom Cruise, who's also a fellow ambassador, and I'd been on tour with Sam James, who's also an ambassador. So just through social media, been checking in on what they've been up to, and obviously I'd seen that they'd both come on board, and I decided to just get in touch and see if you guys or whoever needed any help, and this is where we are now. So that's kind of the journey up until this point.
And Rob, you mentioned as well, when we've discussed Alex being an ambassador, he was one of the first people to actually approach you guys to become an ambassador. That's right. Yeah,
initially, I think when Louis messaged us on Instagram, I was sat around a pool in Thailand and he was sat around a pool in Bali. But just saying, keep up the good work, which really motivates us. When we get messages from players and supporters saying that sort of stuff, it motivates us to keep going and get the message out there. But yeah, Louis then took over our Instagram and showed us a bit of a behind the scenes pre-season training at Saracens, which was nice. And then the next day, he asked to be a Loose Heads ambassador because, like he just said there, is something that he's passionate about. So, I mean this when I say it, that he gets what we're all about, and he's a real asset to Loose Heads.
I think a pool in Thailand and a pool in Bali are both good for your mental health, just while we're on that. So I'd advise it to anyone.
And just on that, Rob, as well, about sort of he's been a credit to you guys so far. I've seen, obviously, over social media that Alex is really supportive of what you guys do, but also of fellow teammates and other things like that. So that must be a real benefit to you when you ask Alex to do some stuff for you.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And, he just said there about Cruzy. So it's nice when the ambassadors sort of know each other as well and are friendly with each other. We've got Cruzy and Guy Thompson, who are good pals as well, and Sam James and Mike Cayley. So it's nice to see friends in rugby circles come together and tackle the stigma.
And Mark, I mentioned there that Saracens did a really good article with Alex around loose heads. I mean, for you guys as loose heads, that must be so pleasing to see, because we know Saracens are one of the best clubs in the world, and for them to have given a bit of time to speak about loose heads and the work that you guys do with Alex is just brilliant.
Yeah, I'm continually blown away by the support we get from people like Alex and the people he's mentioned there, Tom and Sam, and we set this up to be good Samaritans, not bad Samaritans. And when we're joined on that side of the road by people like Alex Lewington, it speaks volumes for where we've come, but also speaks volumes about him and his rugbyness. There's a busy life going on at Saracens, and he could quite easily just not get involved. And yet he does. And as Rob says, he lends his shoulder to our effort superbly well. It's fantastic. It's like any rugby club should be.
Yeah, definitely, Mark. And Alex, I know if I'm right in saying you were a bit of an RPA representative during your time at London Irish, but I know what Mark's just said there, you do want to get involved, and I know that make that call campaign during this COVID-19 something that you led on behalf of Saracens. So is that kind of side of things always been something you wanted to get involved in as well?
Yeah, it has. I think the charity stuff has definitely been a bit more recent, and the RPA stuff at the time. I almost, to be honest, I took it for selfish reasons. I had just done my knee and I needed some distractions in my life away from rehab. And I thought, I've been at the club long enough that I knew the boys well, I knew the area well. I thought I could have a real impact on the squad that year, even if it wasn't on the pitch. I thought we could get, lots of team events together, socials, whatever it is, just sort of encompass all that stuff into one package, and I thought being the RPA rep would help with that, and I really enjoyed it for the year. So that was more that reason. I think since that, I think I've become maybe wanted to give back a bit more since joining Looseheads. I think it's something that I think throughout life I want to maybe pursue, and I just enjoy it, to be honest. So, and obviously I just want the club, whoever I'm playing for, to get the most from me as well, rather than just a chunk or a small portion of what I can offer. So
yeah, and with the article that was on the Saracens website, Alex, was that sort of both parties, you and the club, saying let's get something about mental health awareness on there? Yeah,
they were so supportive. They were happy to do a bit of a feature on Looseheads because they knew that I'm passionate about it, and like Rob sort of said earlier, on the day where I did the behind the scenes thing, they helped do some of the camera work for that and stuff like that. So they're fantastic, Saracens, in terms of giving to charity. I think some of their community work in general is just, I know I'm biased because I'm there, but I think it's the best in the Premiership. So I couldn't speak more highly of what they do, to be honest.
And obviously, you show your support, Alex, by promoting the message and the tackle the stigma. But I've noticed that the Loosehead stash is something that you like as well. I mean, just on that, is that important as well to show your support by just putting a picture on social media, that kind of way?
Yeah, I think just wearing it as well, casually. I think you might be wearing it, and people might ask, "Oh, what's that emblem mean?" They might not even follow rugby or whatever, and it's a good conversation starter. So I even got some for the missus, just so that she can talk all about it as well. So we like the stash. It's good.
And Dave, a bit of a seamless plug now to plug the merchandise. I know we normally do this at the end, but as we're on the topic.
Oh, well, if you insist. Anyone wants to get their hands on some of the stash, get over to looseheads.co.uk. And as a thank you for listening to us rattle on every week, if you enter code POD at checkout, you'll get 10% off.
Perfect. And just in terms of the relationship that Alex has with Looseheads, I know you formed such a good partnership over the last couple of years, and I know a story around Saracens versus Bath is one that was talked about yesterday, Rob. First of all, it must have been great that you got tickets to go down there, and that just shows sort of the appreciation that both parties, you and Alex, have.
Yeah, I think my dad explained it a little bit differently, if you want to take it away.
I was just I was just quite shocked at the relatives of some of the Saracens players because they're big people. The Saracens players are big people, but their relatives are huge. And we actually sat next to Alex's uncle throughout the whole game. Didn't realise until we went down to the pitch side to see him. Bath is somewhere where if you liken it to movies, it's where rugby's played. It's like Hogwarts until you get on the pitch. It's probably the worst pitch in the Premiership, but the most lovely town. Saracens predictably put him away that night properly in a filthy night in November. And we went down to the pitch to say hello and sort of, Alex was more interested in speaking to his uncle, quite rightly so. And I was quite impressed with Alex's composure because he managed to get Rob a number of a girl, which you better take over, Rob, because I'll misquote it.
Yeah, well, we spoke about it yesterday and you bent the story slightly. So the stand we were in at Bath is a temporary stand, and the woman had dropped her phone down one of the gaps in the stand, and they don't move it until about half an hour after the match. So she asked me to get a photo of Alex and her on my phone so I could send it to her. But yeah, got a number, didn't I? Shock.
I set the whole thing up. There was no fluke about it. Sorting you out. It comes with the ticket.
Wingman.
Yeah, exactly.
And just to sort of go on to your career now, Alex, if you don't mind, and unfortunately we're going to have to bring up football again, but we won't mention Liverpool. I know it's well documented that you started playing sport and playing football when you were at Notts County. I mean, first and foremost, how did that come about for you?
Yeah, so I just loved football as a kid, as most kids in this country do, I suppose. My dad's a big football fan, so as soon as I was able to, we went and joined our local football team, and then, yeah, I just loved it. And then I got to a point in school where they said to go for a trial. There's a thing in Nottingham called City Boys, where all the inner city schools come together and form a team. So I tried for that. Got in that, and during the trial, the Notts County scouts were down there, and they liked the look of me, so they moved me from an attacking player to a defensive player. It has to be said, but so I went down there from the ages of about 10 until 14, 15, and yeah, I loved my time there. So yeah, I just loved football, and then obviously I'd started rugby in secondary school, so about the time I left Notts County was about the time I had to make the decision either way as well. So it kind of fell into place nicely, I suppose.
Just on that, I played football first, and then decision came to choose rugby or football, and then much to my dad's disgust, I chose football. But after a year or two, I switched back to playing rugby, and those extra couple of years playing football allowed me to, in my opinion, as a fullback, better my kicking game. Did that experience of playing football to a high standard, in which you did, help when you first got into playing rugby?
I think so. I think playing any sport alongside the sport you end up doing will help inevitably. Whether it's hand-eye coordination if you're a tennis player or whatever. And for me, football was great just for, like you said, you're kicking the ball constantly. So when you move into rugby and that becomes a thing, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had to work very hard to be able to kick a rugby ball to a half-decent standard, but I definitely think it goes a long way in helping. But it's strange, I suppose, because you come across these Southern Hemisphere players, particularly Kiwis, and they cannot kick a football to save their lives, but they are incredibly talented rugby players. So I have no idea if it actually does help, but I feel like it did for me, yeah.
Who would you say is the best player at Sarries, footballer? Is it you or someone else?
Good question.
It's funny. So we, at Sarries, we do play football quite a lot as a warm-up. We do it sort of twice a week. In the warm-ups, we'll do like 2 or 3 minutes each way, and we have an oldies v youngies. That's how it every session. And I mean, if you don't perform in those games, you can get hung out to dry a bit. There's a lot of chat flying about. I definitely wouldn't say I'm the best. I would say I'm the energy. I fly around up front and just try and poach goals. I'd say, it's going to break me to say it. My fellow Londoners, the 2 other Alexes, Good and Lazowski, are pretty good. If we had a if I was going to start a five-a-side team, they'd maybe be on my shortlist. Yeah.
With Billy or Mako in goal?
Oh, we don't play with the forwards. It's just the backs. Can't lower ourselves to that standards. Honestly, we watch them sometimes. It's comical, honestly.
I was going to say, Alex, it's funny that you said I'm running around up front. So clearly you were a frustrated striker that was made to play in defence when you were at Notts County.
Yeah, that was the problem, I think, when it came to choosing rugby or football. And inevitably, if I was going to make it at football, I'd have to settle to be a right back, centre back. That was kind of where I'd ended up. Whereas I was getting this option to play rugby where they wanted me to be the attacking outlet in the team. And I was like, oh, surely I'll go do that. So, yeah.
Because I was going to say as well, Alex, just on your time at Notts County, and I know the club at the time when you were there had financial difficulties, and I think I'm right in saying they sort of got rid of the centre of excellence. So was there any part of you, Alex, that said, I want to continue pursuing football, or had you kind of thought, well, no, actually rugby might be a good option for me now?
Yeah, well, it wasn't as easy as I'm making out now. Once we got the news that Notts County had gone into administration, and the first thing to go was the Centre of Excellence, I was obviously disappointed. You sort of played football for your whole life, and the dream was to play for Man United. I'm not going to lie, but and obviously that was probably going to come to an end. I had a couple of offers from other local teams, Forest and Derby, rang up my parents and asked if I wanted to go down, but which would make my mates at Sarries now laugh if they were listening to this. But yeah, at the time, all my friends from school were really getting into rugby, and it was becoming quite unsociable for me. I'd have to do football training Friday nights, play for school rugby on Saturdays, and then play football matches on Sundays. So my parents were probably pretty happy when I gave up the football as well, because they just didn't have to give as many lifts all the time. But yeah, it wasn't as easy as I make out now, but it was the right decision, I think.
And they say there that, a lot of your friends were playing rugby at school, Alex, but when you sort of were starting to get recognised at county level, did you actually then think this might be a brilliant opportunity to pursue?
Not really. I just really enjoyed it. I kind of saw my path from that point being a bit more traditional. Probably I wanted to go to like Loughborough Uni and play sport at a good standard at uni level and get a degree, and then see where life took me. And all my friends were really talented rugby players as well. There probably wasn't much between us when we were that age. So I suppose maybe the only thing was I was maybe a little bit quicker than some of them, which I think at that age it does kind of help being fast, because it makes you stand out a little bit more. But no, to be honest, at that point I was just happy to play it, and it was just good fun.
And obviously with the performances you put in, Alex, for school and your county, Leicester Tigers do pick you up. I mean, what was that experience like for you to be playing in a professional environment then?
Yeah, it was a shift. I mean, I don't think I'd experienced training and intensity like it before going to Tigers. It was also quite daunting. At the time, Tigers were still sort of, they were probably still quite old school in how you imagine Leicester Tigers. Yeah, I've got a few funny stories from being in the academy there where you wouldn't believe it, but we'll call it character building.
And I noticed as well, Alex, that obviously you featured quite a lot in the LV Cup, as it was known then, for Leicester Tigers. But I noticed I think you've said in the past that you weren't kind of rewarded for sort of the hard work that you put in, because you missed out on starting the final, and that's right in saying. So is it a fair assessment where you say, well, yeah, it was a learning curve, but potentially you missed out on the opportunity to really show your potential? Yeah,
I think at Leicester, I was never, at that age, I was like quite a late developer, sorry, in terms of my rugby skill ability, but I had a bit of talent, and I think at the time, obviously, looking back, I wasn't ready to go play in the Premiership every week for them. There's no doubt about that, but I just felt every time I'd progressed enough to be slightly rewarded, I didn't feel like I was rewarded. And like you said, in that particular LV Cup campaign the year before I left, I played really well, played throughout the group stages, played and started the semi-final, and then the finals the week after. And I obviously fully expected to play in it, having started the semi and we'd won. But it turned out that Northampton had won the other semi-final. So then obviously Leicester took it more seriously because it was Northampton. And I got a voicemail off Cockers on the Monday saying not to bother going into training this week and head back to Nottingham on loan. And I was playing against Doncaster away the following weekend, not in the LV final. So I think that was the moment in my Leicester career where I thought I need a bit of a change of scenery, I think. So,
You kind of mentioned a change of scenery there, Alex. But if I'm right in saying, were Nottingham still based at Notts County?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, which was awesome. So although I played on the Notts County pitch, Meadow Lane, at half time once in a proper game in like League Two or something when we were in the Football League. But so after that, obviously, it was nice that Nottingham Rugby played there, and it was at the time one of the best pitches in the Champ to play there every week or every other week. So it was really good.
And obviously was a disappointing period for you when you say there that you went back on loan to Nottingham. But did that kind of also, in a way, have a positive impact on you and make you grow as a player more because you thought, well, I've had that setback, let's make the most of this chance now in Nottingham and see where it goes?
Oh, massively. And also, I was so happy at Nottingham in terms of the loan games and the time I spent there. I made some great friends and we had a great young group. I think the majority of the squad were aged between 19 and 25. So, and obviously that's where I'm from. So after games, I was able to stay at my parents and go out with the boys and fully immerse myself in the social side of it. And obviously Leicester and Nottingham and geographically not very far away at all either. So I really enjoyed my time there. And obviously for it also to be my hometown club and probably the club I'll support once my career is over. And I always keep an eye out for it. It's nice to know that I've worn the shirt and represented them.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. And so when you speak about the club so fondly there and London Irish comes along, was it quite a difficult choice from that kind of thing to make that step down the country, if you like, to London Irish, but the step up?
No, to be honest, it was probably the easiest choice I've made. I was over the moon. Glenn Delaney, who was the coach at Nottingham the year before I left, he had moved to Irish and he's been a sort of a good mentor for me throughout my career. And he sort of knew they had a small budget for a up and coming winger, and I just the chance to move to London and experience that. And I'd started uni and I was able to transfer my studies down to London. I'd signed a 3-year deal, so by the time my contract was over, I would have finished uni. So that's kind of my mindset going into it. Was it's a great opportunity, and I'm completely over the moon to be here. But if all else fails and rugby is not for me, then I'll have got a degree and I can just move on from here. So that was my thought process, really.
Just listening to you there, Alex, it sounds like it was kind of a win-win situation, if that's the right way of putting it.
Yeah, 100%. And also at the time, 2 of my friends from Leicester were also poached, I suppose, by Glenn down at Irish. So we moved into a house together down in London. And so you're comfortable straight away because you're with lads that you're friends with. And then you meet a new great set of friends on arrival. And Irish at the time when I arrived we had an amazing group of players. London Irish has got this reputation for being a really family squad, and it didn't disappoint. All the young lads, as soon as we arrived, inviting us to do stuff straight away, and we just sort of fell into it. So it was the easiest thing ever. And
when you look back at your time at London Irish, Alex, I mean, I was doing a bit of research for the podcast, and it looked like sort of, if I'm right in saying 2016-17 was a really good season for you, because I know you had the disappointment of your knee injury, and sort of, I think Irish had been relegated the year before as well. So do you think 2016-17 was really when you maybe felt, right, here I am, I've arrived at the club and I can really hit the ground running now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought my second year at Irish it's the year I scored my most Prem tries. I think I got 11 that year or something. So that was a good year, and off the back of that, I went and played against the Barbarians and stuff. So that was good. But the year I came back from my injury, and we won the champ, that was a great year. Just it was so much fun. We were winning every week, obviously, and then we obviously knew we had these 4 big games at the end of the year, the home and away semi, as it used to be in the championship, and then the home and away final. So I came back and played 6 games before those happened, and then obviously I played in the 4 final games as well. So it was nice to sort of contribute, I suppose, in that year, because the rest of the boys had been doing the tough journeys down to some of these championship clubs, which are great clubs, but I mean, no one wants to be playing in Cornwall in January. It's not what rugby's about, in my opinion. So the rest of the lads had done all the hard work, and I suppose I was lucky enough to come and contribute at the end.
Of course, getting promoted, Alex, is always a good feeling, and winning a league is always a good feeling. But did it make it a little bit sweeter for you because of what you've been through?
Yeah, it did. And also, I'd sort of, when we got relegated the year before, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I just had my best year. I'd gone on the Saxons tour, and it was tough to know whether to obviously stay with Irish. At the time, I was just unsure on what to do, and there was a lot of chat, maybe I'd go on loan for a year or something like that, or leave maybe. But once I did my knee, I wanted to stay and help them come back up, because they were more than happy to rehab me. So it felt at the end of the year, of that particular year, that we both the club and myself had given back quite a lot, and it was just great to be back in the Premiership for the following year.
And just to bring it back to what you said before about your try scoring in the I think it was your second season, you said there when you were in the Premiership, Alex. I think you scored a hat trick against Saracens, if I'm right in saying. So were they on you? Were they looking at you then? Do you reckon?
I don't know. I don't know if they'd heard of me before that game, to be honest. I was talking to Wiggy about it not long ago, actually, and he said before that game he hadn't heard of either of our wingers, which I was one of them, obviously. So I don't know who else was on the other wing, but so maybe they weren't expecting it. But no, it was a great day. I was actually on my birthday as well, so just to score a hat trick on your birthday in the Premiership against Saracens is quite a special day, even though we lost, which I must be the record holder for the only player to score a hat trick in a losing team. I don't know.
We'll have to look out. I'm pretty sure that could be a record, actually.
Yeah, well, it's not one I'm proud of, but.
And I'm sure kind of a moment you would have been proud of, Alex, is getting picked for that England Saxons tour that you mentioned before. And I know, unfortunately, in terms it was bittersweet because you did pick up the injury. But what was that kind of experience like for you? Because if I'm right in saying as well, you were the only London Irish representative who was picked for the Saxons tour.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was probably one of my best experiences as a rugby player. To meet up with a great group of lads. I think that was the main thing that made the tour, was not only did we have loads of talent in the squad, the lads who went were just really good fun. Although we trained really hard, between training sessions, coffees and spending time with each other, everyone was all for it. And by the end, obviously, it didn't feel like I was the only London Irish player. I felt like I'd made a lot of good mates. And I was actually rooming with Nick Tompkins on that tour, who was the only Saracens player there. So that was quite nice when I obviously came to Sarries, that I had that relationship too. So yeah, no, it was amazing. And obviously picking up the injury was disappointing, but these things happen in rugby, and I think you're quite lucky to go through your rugby career without a couple of big injuries. It's just the nature of the sport.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on sort of that team camaraderie aspect you mentioned there, Alex, as we had Sam James and Denny Solomona on the podcast probably a couple of months ago now, and Sam and Denny talked about when they were away in Argentina, and Sam also touched on that South Africa tour with the Saxons about how good it was to get on the plane and meet these guys and have that bond. So was that such a vital part of the experience for you as well?
Yeah, definitely. James, I got on really well with James on that tour as well, and like I said before, we were all sort of similarly aged. I think that was the great thing about that particular Saxons tour. And I know they've not done one since, but most people who go on that tour are sort of maybe up and coming players. So generally everyone is younger. So you're all sort of similar stages in your lives. So you just straight away, you've got so much in common with everyone that it makes it a lot more seamless. So yeah, no, I can't speak more highly of it. It's actually a real shame that I don't know the reasoning. I'm guessing it's financial that the RFU are not able to organise more of those tours, but it definitely developed me as a player and a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you sort of look around at who your teammates were there, Alex, I know Danny Cipriani was in there. You mentioned Sam as well. Did it kind of make you feel at the time like, wow, these are really talented players, and I'm also part of this really special group?
Yeah, no, it was a real compliment, to be honest, to play with these players, Premiership players that I played against and watched on telly, admiring for a few years, and it was awesome. I think that's why what I was just saying before. It's a shame that they don't do it more, because you learn a lot from players that you don't train with every day. So Sips, for example, he plays a completely different way to, I suppose, for me now at Saracens, Owen Farrell plays. So it's great to have that kind of experience where you get to sort of gel and play with players and sort of talk a bit of rugby and see how they read the game and see the game, and also the coaches as well. We had Ali Heffer was our head coach, the attack coach from Exeter, and we did training sessions that I'd never done before, which I really enjoyed because it was just something a bit different. And obviously I'd been at Irish a few years then, and training can get repetitive, but when you go away on tour with a new set of players and coaches, it's completely different, which freshens things up quite well.
And also, Alex, you've not been shy about your aspirations for England, and I guess Sam James also said this. Actually, said when I was on that Saxons tour, it was kind of gave me a taste to really kick on and try and aspire to get international honours. Was that kind of the case for you as well at the time?
Yeah, massively at the time. I'd played like lower level representatives, so England's 16s and 18s and stuff. But since then, I hadn't pulled on a England shirt. So it was when we played the first game, we went into the change room and you pull the white shirt on. It's actually a kind of a surreal moment. Well, it was for me. I was like, wow, like I haven't worn a full white kit for a while. This is quite nice. Wouldn't mind doing this a bit more. So yeah, it definitely makes you want to push on. And especially when you see other people on that tour kick on and go and get caps and stuff, it was that kind of thing. And I suppose it's not really happened for me since then, but certainly at the time, that's what I wanted.
And kind of does that desire still burn bright for you, Alex, to try and break into that English world? Because obviously we've seen how well they've been doing over the last couple of years, and it is very competitive in terms of the massive pool of talent that Eddie Jones has been able to pick from. But does that kind of stop you from wanting to achieve that, or are you still very much wanting to try and break into the England squad?
No, I mean, I'd obviously love to, but I think I have to be realistic in terms of I need to be starting for Saracens every week for that to happen. So for me personally, I don't even think about the England stuff anymore. All I think about is my selection for Sarries, and if that is going well, then obviously not just England, but other good things will come off the back of it, I'm sure. But I think you can't be worrying about the international. I mean, I'm training and competing against internationals every day anyway, so it's the stuff. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself.
I was going to come on to kind of you moved to Saracens, Alex, because I know at the time you said it was, you were hoping that would give you a kind of platform to maybe push on for England. But you said there that, you're training against these guys and playing with them for however long you've been doing it now, 2 years, I think it is. So how much have you been able to learn off those England internationals in particular?
Yeah, so much. I'm so glad I made the move in terms of my development as a player. Just in terms of the back three players in my first year, we had obviously Goody, David Strettle, Sean Maitland, Liam Williams. I mean, it was incredibly competitive, and not just that. Some of the skill and the things they were doing in training was I hadn't trained against or with people at such a high level consistently. So it makes you as a player want to just emulate that and better it. So every training session is so competitive that I've absolutely loved it.
And you said before as well, Alex, about having a chat to Wiggy, and he said, "Oh, he didn't know who you were when he played against you when you were at London Irish." But when you kind of look round and you're at training or you're in the dressing room, does it fill you with immense pride that you're sharing the same pitch and sharing the same kind of Saracen shirt with these guys?
Yeah, it does. I mean, like you said, there's so much talent in the team that it's a bit surreal sometimes. But then at the same time, you've got to embrace it and believe that you deserve to be there. Otherwise, you're not going to perform well. And I've worked really hard to get to where I am now, and to obviously be at Sarries and have my position in the squad. I'm just happy to keep pushing on, and hopefully, like I said before, get to a point where I am sort of a out and out starter for Sarries in the big games, and that's always been my goal. So I knew it wouldn't be an easy process, but I'm enjoying the process. Let's say that.
And you say there as well, Alex, about you have to sort of embrace that challenge. And if I'm right in saying Nick Kennedy, before you left London Irish, said that you have the ability to be a starter at Saracens. So did that also give you confidence going into that dressing room that you've got the backing of your old coach Nick Kennedy, but also you can really put a marker down there?
Yeah, no, Kendo took me for a coffee. It was obviously a weird period of time my last year at Irish, because he'd been the coach up until the last 5 games, and then they changed the coach. But me and Kendo lived really close, so I'd see him around quite a lot and bump into him. But anyway, we bumped into each other one day. He called me for a chat and just said, like, look, I think this is a great move for you, and you just need to sort of have the confidence to go in there and be yourself and stuff. Which, to be honest, in my first year, at moments I probably didn't. But I think that comes with time. And like you said, it was maybe a bit surreal going into a team environment with all these incredible international stars. But I think that's maybe something you get over through time. So I've definitely got past that point now.
Well, I think you've been too modest there, Alex. I think you got past it pretty quickly, because I'm right in saying it was 2 tries on your first game for Sarries and then 6 and 8 games. So that must have been really pleasing for yourself to hit the ground running, because you were relishing that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it was in terms of the try scoring, it was quite weird. As a winger, I've said this before, it can look like you're in incredible form, yet some of your tries that you're scoring are very simple and easy, and it can just be a bit of luck. So obviously in those tries of, like you said, 6 and 8 or whatever it was, I would say 2 of them were probably down to me, and 4 of them were down to a bit of luck. Whereas this year just gone, I would say I've had absolutely no luck, and all the tries that you work incredibly hard for. So it's funny with wingers, and people start coming up to you if you've not scored for a while, and they're like, "Oh, when you haven't scored for a while, when are you getting a try?" And you're like, "I'm not going out there not to score tries." But then on the other side, people are like, "Oh, you've scored loads recently," and you're not even thinking about it, because it's what it is. But yeah, to go back to that period, that was a good fun period, because we won all those games as well. So just being a part of a winning team was a nice feeling as well.
Yeah, and being part of that winning environment must have been another drive for you to join Sarries, as well as your personal aspirations, Alex, because I think at the time Saracens had just won the Premiership, and a couple of years earlier they were European Cup holders, and then obviously the year you joined they go and do the double of that's right. So that must have been a massive inspiration and an aspiration of you to join the club.
Yeah, it was a massive pull. I wanted to go somewhere that obviously not only made you a better player, but you just win some rugby games consistently, and I wanted to be in that sort of top 4 team. So when you get a team like Saracens interested in signing with you, it was a bit of a no-brainer. And I don't think any of us are developed to be good losers, and I'm certainly not a good loser. And I'd done my fair share of losing at London Irish over my time there, and I just thought, life's too short to just always be on a losing team. I want to be part of this winning team and see where my career can go in that respect. So it's definitely been nice since I've been at the club, yeah.
And also, Alex, obviously the success that Saracens has been in the spotlight and been in rugby news really over the last 6 to 7 months, because of what the club has been through in terms of the salary cap breaches, and then obviously the relegation as well from the Premiership. I mean, first and foremost, if you don't mind us sort of touching on the subject, Alex, what was it like for you as players? Were you kind of shocked when all the news came out?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for the other lads, but for me personally, I just completely didn't see it coming. I don't really follow sort of all those rumours going around in the rugby press about this and that. And for me personally, I know we had a great team. A lot of them come through the academy, and as a player, when you get offered a contract, you just sign it. So you don't know what's going on. No player has any idea what's going on financially at a club. So even when a club as big as Sarries and with the players we got gets the sort of punishment that we did, it was a bit of a shock. And a bit of it was the beginning of a bit of a turbulent few months at the club, to be honest. So it's been I suppose a bit of a roller coaster since then, and I suppose the coronavirus has not helped things either. So it's been a bit of a weird year.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there, Alex. But in terms of you personally, I know you said before that it was one of the most challenging sort of periods for you in your career. But we were at the Old Albanian training base sort of the week or the couple of weeks after the news broke, and Mark McCall said, "Well, do you know what? The team are just staying together and they're uniting," and that you kind of drew a line as players under the issue and focused on the task in hand. Was that kind of the mentality all the players had and needed to have at that time?
Yeah, I couldn't speak more highly of the playing group during that time, especially I think when this first happened, we were missing all our World Cup players as well. So the team that had to go out and front up and take the brunt of the opposition fans and the media and stuff was actually the team that, like is our sort of, I wouldn't call it second string because some of the players are too talented to say that, but we definitely didn't have maybe 10 players from the World Cup. So we knew it'd be tough, and especially the away games. But saying that, I mean, we went to Gloucester and won in the week when all this came out, and that was one of my highlights as a Saracens player and in my rugby career, because they had every player they could available. We went without our England players, and we turned them over at Kingsholm, which turning a team over at Kingsholm, is hard enough as it is. But for us to go and do it that day was really special. So I really enjoyed that.
How's kind of the whole scenario impacted on, I guess, your mental health for you personally and what you've seen throughout the squad? Obviously, anyone who sees something like that happening to their employer, it's going to cause concerns about whether there might be a job next year or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't lie and say that I didn't go through high levels of anxiety regarding contracts and stuff. How does this affect me? Then also you see how it is affecting other lads, and then constant whispers of what's happening next, how we're going to reshuffle the squad so that we're fully in line for next year. And on top of that, you're still, because all that's going on, you're desperate to play because you need to have yourself in the shop window in case the worst case scenario happens of you getting let go by the club or whatever. So yeah, it's safe to say it was not easy. And also, I think I myself put pressure on myself to be good at what I do. And I know they'll get to a point in rugby where I'm getting on a bit and I can't maybe do what I used to, but I'm obviously not at that point now. So it felt weird that your career was going to be punished even when you're putting even more effort in than normal. It's kind of backwards, really. So yeah, it was strange. It was really strange, really strange.
I guess kind of on the flip side of that, obviously kind of rightly or wrongly, according to some people, Sarries have been helping players in various ways. And as an outsider looking in, I think it's brilliant to see the way that they're lining players up for life after rugby, supporting your family life and things like that. And kind of outside of the salary cap side of things, how important do you think it is for clubs to take such an interest in players' welfare?
Yeah, it's funny. Obviously, part of what Sarries got punished for, like you said, is helping players develop as people and their welfare once, they're not attached to the club and going long-term future. And it seemed wrong at the time. I know it was obviously against the rules, but my opinion is, should that not be the framework for all rugby clubs in terms of looking after players? I think since then, obviously during the coronavirus, I think it's only proves that rugby is such a fragile sport. We're nowhere near the levels of the American sports or football in this country or European football. Should we not be more creative in looking after players during and post rugby? And if that means not being able to pay them as much now, I understand that because it's a business. But it seems backwards to me that a group of players who put their body on the line, play Premiership rugby for 10 plus years, have no health support once they finish the game. Their bodies could be in a seriously tough place. We have no support after that. And then also, if we're going back to the Saracens' point, that they're punished for sort of financially and just, I suppose, in a personal manner, bettering these people for the long-term future. I don't know. It's just my opinion, but it seems a bit backwards. I think that's the word for me.
No, I couldn't agree more.
And I think, speaking from somebody from my perspective and great age, I'm part of a club that's for 25 years. I'm now sit on the committee. I used to play there. As you know, I'm not going anywhere. They'll have to take me out in a box. And it is absolutely about that. Rugby clubs live and die by that principle that you've outlined there, Alex. And you know, the inner detail and the inner sanctum, none of us will ever know. But the reality is, rugby clubs are part of the fabric of society for me. And they breed good people. In fact, they breed better people, in my personal opinion.
Yeah. I think as well, you know, like the more that rugby just becomes a business, the less, and fans go on about loyalty, but why would a player be loyal when the club isn't loyal to him in the other? It's not a two-way thing. So I think the more it becomes about the money, about the business and the salary. I know, like, the salary cap's there to sort of spread out the talent evenly and make it a fairer contest, and I'm all for that as well. But I think there maybe could be a smarter way of going about it. I don't know the process, and I'm sure that I'll probably take a load of heat about these comments after this, but because I'm sure the people much higher up than me are having these discussions. But for me, it's a bit of the coronavirus has only highlighted it even more, that when rugby clubs missed one home game, it was crisis mode, which the business model for that must be crazy to think if that's the case.
Yeah, I think that loyalty aspect's a massive thing, Alex, and sort of bringing it back to the players and this season. You mentioned that game at Gloucester. I remember watching it, and you could tell that there's that real show of unity within the guys that played that day. And I mean, even just looking at the table, I think it's 9 wins from 13 games for you. So has that just been the mentality throughout this, just to show that we are a club, we're all united in this together?
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that Saracens have got it so right in terms of their coaching and their development of young players that, like I said before, we're missing 10 England players, but some of these lads who step in and play for these guys, if they were other clubs, they might have 20, 30 Premiership caps to their names. You just haven't heard of them because they sit behind a Maro Itoje or Billy Vunipola. It's just they're waiting their turn to play for a great team. So I think it is about the unity as well, because the boys are very close. But I also think that the players they have to come in, especially the younger players, are outstanding. So they never are going to be in too much of a disadvantaged position, really.
And I guess that may be one of the small positives to take about what's happened, Alex. Yes, you're going to have, you know, we've already seen it confirmed that Owen and I know the Vunipolas will be sticking around next season when you guys are in the Championship. You do get these other younger players who've obviously shown what they can do anyway in Europe and in the Premiership when those internationals have been away, but they may now have a great opportunity with a few of the lads going out on loan to really put a marker down in the Championship.
Yeah, definitely. And the Championship has always been a good breeding ground for young players, but I think more so for the guys who are going to come in and play for us this year, the younger lads. It'll be great just to be part of the team week in, week out, which is something that if this hadn't happened and we were in the Premiership next year, they maybe wouldn't have had, because we rotate quite a lot and obviously we've got such good players that it's hard for young players to break through. But we're going to rely on them this year, so that it's going to be a great test for them to week in, week out, have to put the jersey on and get the job done. So it's exciting. If I was a young player at Saracens, I'd really be looking forward to this year. Well, I am as well, but I'm not that young.
I was going to say, you're a similar age to me, Alex. So,
Yeah.
and I know you look into the future there a bit, but there is still a job for you guys to do this year. I know the European Cup is still hoping to get back and running. I know the dates this week were announced for your quarter-final against Leinster, which is in September. So that must be still exciting for you guys, and I guess you will be working towards that as well.
Oh, massively. I think obviously the European Cup for us this year is our saving grace, really. It's what we've worked for all year. Obviously, we can't do anything in the Premiership this year, and we'll be in the Championship next year. So having that European Cup in the autumn is massive. And I would imagine everyone at the club has got one eye on that, even though, like you said, we have got a good few rounds of Premiership rugby coming up before then. So no, I couldn't be more looking forward to it.
It's interesting, that Leinster game. It's like in my era, Bjorn Borg and John McEnroe meeting in the quarter-final. It's going to be a massive, massive game. The build-up's going to be immense. The game itself, crikey. That's two teams properly on their game, going at each other.
Yeah, which is the most exciting thing I think about it is, I don't think that the performance or the game will just not be a disappointment. It's going to be massive clash. So it's exciting. Probably shouldn't be thinking about it too much in June.
It's hard not to.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, probably got a few more pre-season fitness sessions before then, actually. So
yeah.
Probably should worry about them first.
I just finally on this, Alex, I was going to mention those kind of big games, because when you do play for Saracens, you pull on that famous black jersey. You pretty much are playing in big games every week. So are those the moments that you do try to savour?
Yeah, they are. I'm at a point now where we've had 3 months off rugby, and there's still a good amount of time to go. And I couldn't think of anything more exciting than us having a Premiership game this weekend. It's different level, especially at Sarries, the expectation, and when teams come, they bring their A game. There's no easy game. Although sometimes maybe at the end of the game, the scoreline looks easy. We've had to work incredibly hard to get that. So no, I couldn't be looking forward to the season starting again more, really.
And with the success Saracens have had, Alex, obviously they are the European and English champions still, and you would have played with so many good players. So now it's finally on to probably the best part of the podcast, if I'm right in saying, with the Mars 15, which is hosted beautifully by Mark. So over to Mark for this.
But yeah, thank you, Chris. Before we get into it, I just wanted to say we are blessed, as you talked earlier about being in association with some properly good rugby players, but properly humble people. And if I can say this out loud without blowing smoke up his arse, Alex represents the very best of the best in that respect. I take a special interest in watching him when he plays, but his humility and his ability to cut through the bullshit of life, especially given that his route to the top has been a circuitous route. It's not been an academy route. It's one where he's had to make the choice between football and rugby. Not an easy choice. Why should you make it at 15? All that rest of it. And I just think loose heads, which is something that Dave and Rob and I breathe, sleep, drink every day, is the better, much the richer for having someone like Alex around. So thank you. However, having gone on that circuitous route and having played with and been coached by some of the best players, I'm really looking forward to this. So, Alex, the basic premise is this, that during coronavirus, the Martians have looked down and seen something quite attractive about the planet Earth. So they've challenged us to a game of rugby to resolve civilization and the future of it. We've done the toss and we've lost the toss. So the shuttle leaves tomorrow. It takes 4 weeks to get to Mars. It's a game we have to win. So I'm looking for your best 15 from any code, from any time, from any zone, from any gender, almost from any species, but also to have a manager, a coach, a kit man, and a water boy. And I am really looking forward to your selections.
All right, I just want to make it clear before we start that I think this can be perceived in very different ways, and I'm excited to tell you my team because I do think it's a good team, but I think there'll be a theme throughout where you will see why I've gone for it. But yeah, let's do it. Do you want me to just jump in?
Yeah, just crack on. Yeah.
Okay. At Loosehead, and just to be clear, I think I've only played with 3 players on this team, so it's more people I look up to and rate and whatever. But anyway, at Loosehead, I've gone Ellis Genge. I just think he's a bit of the man of the moment right now in rugby, and he's quite a tough lad. So if we come across any trouble in Mars, like he would look out for us. So I've gone for him. At hooker, I've gone George Shooter.
Leicester legend.
Yeah, so when I was a youngster at Leicester, he was obviously well-established first-team player, but he was a great guy. Always had time for the younger lads, and obviously got so many caps in the Premiership and for Leicester and stuff that, yeah, he was a good option for us at hooker. And I think, as I'll come to, so at tight head, I've got Kyle Sinclair. So I think a bit of experience in that front row was needed, I suppose. Yeah. Saying that, I mean, Kyle's played in the World Cup final, so I think he's got a bit of experience. And I put him in because I know that him and Ellis Genge, I don't know them both that well personally, but I know they get on well. So I thought they could have each other to hang out with. And also, good ball-carrying option for us at tight head. And then in the row, I've gone Jeff Parling.
Yes.
He was another one at Leicester who, great fun, just always inclusive of the whole squad. He'll run the line out for us, and also obviously he's a quality player, now a coach. So maybe if our coach needed a hand, call on Jeff, all good. But with him in the second row, and our captain is Paul O'Connell. Just because I thought we needed someone who's quite sensible to keep everyone in check and have a bit of authority around the place. So if you're not going to answer back to Paul O'Connell, was my thought process there. At 6, I've gone Skulk Berger. He's one who I've played with at Sarries, and I mean, obviously he's part of the double winning team from last year, so obviously he was still at a very high level when he hung his boots up. But when I used to play Rugby 08 as a kid, he was my favourite forward. So
I love that.
I never told him that, and I've played golf with him loads of times. So just hope he doesn't listen to this. That's quite embarrassing. But
I love that you chose him because you played him on Rugby 08.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't deny it. He's had an incredible career. So there you go. At 7, I've gone Hamish Watson because, so he was in the academy with me at Leicester just for a year, and he was like such a raw player, unbelievably talented, so fast, strong. But they obviously saw some other guys ahead of him and he didn't make it. But his route to get to where he's got to now, I think he's had to work incredibly hard.
Yeah.
He was a good mate of mine at the time, and I think he could potentially be number 7 for the Lions next year. So I've gone with Hamish at 7.
Well, you heard it here first. A tip for the open side.
Yeah, there you go. Number 8, I've gone with Afisa Trevoranis. Just because when I was at Irish, he was unbelievable. Every time he played, like, we relied on him so much, and every week he put his body on the line. A really nice, humble guy. And I think he would, like I said, I'm looking for balance within the squad. I don't think we can have too many loose cannons and stuff. So he's like a good leveler, and I think he's just going to get us over the gain line and do the business there. So that's him. At scrum half, I've gone for Julian Dupuis. Because I always like the thought of a sort of general at 9, and the French system is that kind of thing. And when I was at Leicester, I just thought he was a cool bloke, ultra relaxed, considering how good he was and how well he was playing for Leicester. He would leave the training ground, take one step and light a fag up, and that was it. So I always thought that was if you've got that attitude, you've got to be pretty talented to be in the professional level that he has. So,
Was that part of the team building, Alex, that you mentioned at the start?
He never invited me for one, but maybe if he listens to this in the future, if we bump into each other, he might. But I doubt it. We'll see. At 10, I've gone for Dan Carter, just because when I was a kid, I think most of my selections here, you can kind of see that I'm more a modern era rugby fan. I was more of a football fan before I was sort of 14, 15, and then I've been rugby. So, but for me, I think he's arguably the greatest. Well, obviously you've got Jonah Lomu who changed the game, but Dan Carter was never going to be Jonah Lomu because of just genetics. But yeah, for me, Dan Carter is the GOAT. He's up there, and he's just going to run the show for us at 10. So happy with that. Yeah. On the left wing, I've gone for the Honey Badger because if we're going, it takes 4 weeks to get to Mars. We need someone who's going to drop a few jokes, one-liners, keep us entertained, keep the humour levels high. I think he would deliver that. And also, obviously, talented player, played for the Wallabies in his own right. So it's not just that. He's obviously, all these players are great players, but yeah. At 12, I've gone for Luke McAllister. He was my absolute idol. I played centre until I was 16, so he was my idol in terms of that 12 jersey. And yeah, I just think he's got a bit of swag about him, and he's just going to bring a bit of coolness to the team. Yeah. Maybe some of the others, particularly George Shooter, wouldn't bring to the team. So we'll take him. And then my other centre, and he was a really, really good player, obviously, as well, an incredible player. But he is our balance. So I've gone for Anthony Allen because we've got very attacking backline, and we need someone who's going to man the defence for us. And I thought when I was younger and Leicester were really good, he basically did that for that Tigers team, and they won countless Prem titles with him in it. So that was my thought process there. Then I went Wadey on the other wing because I just think he's probably the most unique talent the Premiership has seen, and it's such it's a shame in terms of he didn't go on to get the England caps he deserved, but I still think it's amazing to see him going over to give NFL a go, and if anyone's going to do it, it'll be him. So yeah, I've gone for him. And he's also a very smiley character, positive person, so we need that. And then at fullback, I've gone for Ben Smith. I think he's the full package as a fullback. And for me, growing up, I wouldn't usually get to watch too much Premiership rugby because it would be on while I was playing rugby. But at 7 a.m, there's always a Super Rugby game on when you're getting ready or whatever. And probably watched him more than most fullbacks who play in the Prem. And I just think he's an incredible player. So yeah. And then, so my coach, on a day, obviously, the day after Liverpool won the league, I can only pick Sir Alex as my coach.
Split second, I thought you were going to go Jurgen. But...
Yeah, I absolutely had it Jurgen then.
No, sorry. Has to be. There's no argument against it. He's the greatest coach of all time. It is what it is. I'm a Man United fan. I just couldn't pick anyone else. My manager, I've gone a bit off-piece here, and he's actually a fictional character. So I've gone for Ari Gold from Entourage. I don't know if you've watched Entourage. I think he's going to get the best opportunities for the team. A few nice promotional gigs on Mars. A few nice touches, maybe a bit of VIP in the nightclubs for the boys, a bit of that. So yeah, I've gone for him. My water boy, I've just gone for Gary Neville because I think he would just bring so much humour to the place. He'd be Fergie's right-hand man whilst only being the water boy. It would be quite a nice balance.
If we can get him back from Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where he is. I can't ask him. But if we can, I'm sure he'd jump at the chance to be my rugby team water boy. But
Of course he would.
Yeah. And then my kit man, I think throughout my time in rugby, the best kit men have been the funniest and they have great humour. So I've gone comedic wise, and my favourite comedian is Kevin Bridges. So I've gone Kevin Bridges.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Nice too. I love that. Thank you.
No problem. And
Luke McAllister was a player. I watched him a lot at Sale, and he had a couple of years there. And he was the real deal, wasn't he? He had everything.
yeah, he was the man, and obviously, he's competing with Marnonu in New Zealand, so
Yeah.
probably made the right decision to come to Europe. But
Yes.
played for Sale, played for Toulouse for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I think he's in Japan now, still playing, and yeah, unbelievable player.
Great team.
You mentioned as well, Alex, before we pressed the record button, that you had a bit of a chat with fellow Looseheads ambassador Tom Cruise about your team.
Yeah, and I think our teams sum both our personalities up quite well. He's quite a serious, no banter, boring bloke, and I think his team reflects that. Whereas my team, I think you've got some real talented players, but great characters as well. And what you want from it, Cruisey, I think you've really struggled on this task, to be honest. So I hope you're listening. Brilliant.
Great.
There was certainly a lot of thought gone into that, Alex. I think that's the most in-depth one we've had so far.
Well, if you're going to do it, you've got to do it properly, haven't you? So that was, and you say that, but I got a text off Rob yesterday about 6:30 saying, "Oh, by the way, you need to come up with this Mars 15." So not that much prep, I would just say.
Love the Rugby 08 comparison as well, because I know a couple of my players that I picked in my team is because of that game, 100%.
And and that's another problem with rugby. How are we meant to compete with other sports? We don't have a game at the moment. We need a game.
Yeah, we do. We do.
100% agree with that.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We absolutely do. Well, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you this afternoon. Sorry for banging on about Liverpool at the start, but we managed to get away from that, thankfully. But thanks you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
No, cheers, guys. It's been great chatting to you all, and all good. Thanks very much for having me.
No problem at all, Alex. And as always, many thanks to Rob, Mark, and Dave for their time this afternoon.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yes.
And this will probably go out after the weekend. So Looseheads were at the rugby show and did some great work with Team Mental Health, Brad Shields and Sydney Gregson as well, and a brilliant Q&A with Lawrence Dalio and Sean Edwards. And I'm sure you'll be able to find reruns of that on YouTube and on social media. So do check out the brilliant work Looseheads are doing. And also, as Dave mentioned before, get hold of the merchandise. I know summer is here, hopefully this weather stays, and it's a great time to get your Looseheads stash. So please check out the website and all Looseheads' social media as well. But that's been another Looseheads podcast in association with Talking Rugby Union. Thanks very much for listening.